Take a deep breath. God is here.
In the middle of the noise, God, I stand surrounded by faces and voices and movement. Yet inside me there is a quiet ache that feels invisible, like standing in a crowded room where no one knows my name, where laughter brushes past me without landing, where conversations orbit but never touch my heart. And I bring this loneliness to you now, not as a complaint but as a fragile offering, because you see what crowds cannot see and hear what applause drowns out. You notice the soul that smiles while feeling hollow, the person who shows up yet feels absent, the heart that beats faithfully while longing to be truly known. And as I breathe in this moment, I ask you to sit with me here, to let your presence slip gently into this empty space, because I am tired of feeling alone while surrounded, tired of blending in when I was created to belong, and I trust that even here, even now, you are closer than the noise, nearer than the nearest body, quietly attentive to the parts of me that feel forgotten. Even when I am physically close to others, God, there are moments when my spirit feels distant, like I am watching life through glass, present but untouched, nodding at the right times while my inner world stays silent and heavy. And you know how exhausting it is to carry this quiet separation without words, how draining it feels to be seen but not recognized, to be heard but not understood. And I let myself be honest before you now, because you are not intimidated by my emptiness or confused by my contradictions. You understand how a heart can crave connection while fearing exposure, how it can long to be held while learning to survive alone. And in this tender tension, I gently invite you to step closer to the places I keep guarded, to sit with me in the gap between who I appear to be and who I truly am, trusting that your nearness does not require performance, only presence, and that even in a crowd you are capable of making me feel singular, known, and quietly safe. There are times, Lord, when the laughter around me sounds distant, like an echo in a long hallway, and I wonder how I can be surrounded by so many lives yet feel like mine is standing still, unnoticed and unanchored, carrying thoughts I do not know how to share, and feelings I do not know how to translate into simple words. And you see how loneliness in a crowd can feel heavier than solitude, because it carries the illusion that I should be fine, that I should not feel this way, and still my heart sinks quietly, searching for a place to rest. So I bring you this unspoken weight, this sense of being emotionally out of step with the world around me. And in the softness of this moment, I invite you to meet me beneath the surface, where my true self waits patiently, believing that your understanding does not rush me or dismiss me, but settles gently into my rhythm, reminding me that I am never overlooked in your eyes, even when I feel unseen by everyone else. Sometimes, Father, I feel like a shadow moving among solid bodies, smiling, responding, participating, yet carrying a quiet sense that no one is truly walking beside me. And it creates a strange ache, a loneliness that does not come from absence, but from distance, from the space between hearts that never quite close. And you know how this kind of loneliness confuses the soul, because it makes me question whether something in me is missing or broken, whether I am failing at connection or simply weary from trying. And I lay these questions before you without demanding answers, only honesty. And in this honest stillness, I gently invite you to sit beside me in the silence I usually hide, to be the presence that does not rush to fill the void with noise, but teaches my heart that being fully known by you is enough to begin healing the quiet places where I feel alone, even when surrounded. I notice, God, how easily my heart grows tired in places where connection should feel natural, how gatherings meant for joy sometimes leave me more aware of the distance inside me, as if everyone else received a map I never learned to read, and I move through conversations carefully, choosing words that keep me included but not exposed, present but protected. Because loneliness in a crowd teaches survival skills that look like strength from the outside, and you see how much effort it takes to remain composed while longing to be reached. How often I listen more than I speak, because I am afraid my true voice might echo back unanswered. And I bring this quiet fatigue to you now, trusting that you do not measure me by how well I blend in. And in this vulnerable pause, I invite you to gently touch the places where I have learned to shrink, to remind my soul that I do not need to disappear to belong, that with you I am allowed to take up space, to breathe fully, and to trust that even here, surrounded yet aching, I am held in a presence that does not overlook me. There is a particular sadness, Lord, in realizing that I can be surrounded by conversation and still feel like my heart is speaking a different language, one no one around me seems fluent in. And it makes me wonder how many times I have laughed on cue while carrying a storm behind my ribs, how many times I have nodded in agreement while my soul quietly asked to be understood. And you know that this kind of loneliness is not dramatic or loud. It is subtle, steady, wearing, like a low ache that never fully leaves. And I bring this hidden weariness to you because you are not distracted by crowds or fooled by appearances. You see the pauses between my words and the emotions I swallow. And in this moment of quiet honesty, I softly invite you to speak into the parts of me that feel disconnected, to remind me that my depth is not a flaw, that my sensitivity is not weakness, and that even when I feel emotionally out of place among many, I am perfectly placed within your attentive personal care. As I move through rooms filled with people, God, I often sense an invisible distance growing inside me, like standing on the edge of a circle where everyone else seems to belong effortlessly, sharing rhythms and histories I do not quite step into. And this quiet separation follows me home, lingering in my thoughts, asking why connection feels so close yet unreachable. And you understand how this loneliness is not about being ignored but about feeling misaligned, as if my heart beats slightly out of tempo with the world around me. And I confess how tiring it is to keep showing up with hope while bracing for disappointment, to keep believing in connection while learning how to be alone in company. And I bring this tension to you without polishing it or making it smaller. And in this honest breath, I gently invite you to realign my heart with yours, to anchor me in a presence that does not drift or fade, so that even when human closeness feels uncertain, I can rest in the steady assurance that I am deeply accompanied, fully seen, and quietly understood by you. There are moments, Father, when I realize that the loneliness I carry in crowds did not begin there, but was formed slowly through small misunderstandings, unmet expectations, and the quiet habit of being strong when I wished someone would notice my need. And now it travels with me like an unspoken companion, whispering that closeness is fragile and belonging must be earned. And you see how this shapes the way I enter rooms, how I stay alert, measuring myself, offering pieces but holding the core back, afraid that if I reveal too much, I will feel even more alone. And I bring this learned caution to you with open hands, because you know how protection can slowly turn into isolation. And in this gentle awareness, I invite you to help me loosen the armor I no longer need, to remind my heart that your presence is not conditional, that with you, I am not tolerated but welcomed, and that even when I feel emotionally separated among many, your nearness remains constant, patient, and quietly restoring. In crowded spaces, Lord, I sometimes feel the pressure to perform normalcy, to appear content and connected while my inner world quietly searches for something deeper, something real. And this performance leaves me drained because pretending to belong costs more energy than being alone. And you see how often I replay conversations afterward, wondering what I could have said differently, whether I revealed too little or too much, whether anyone sensed the longing beneath my calm. And I confess how heavy it feels to carry these questions in silence, to sit among people yet feel emotionally exiled, present in body, but wandering in spirit. And still I come to you with this unrest, trusting that you are not asking me to be more interesting, or more open, or more acceptable, And in the stillness of this breath, I quietly invite you to meet me beyond the roles I play, to remind me that with you I do not need to impress or explain, that I am already known in my fullness, and that this truth can slowly soften the loneliness I feel when surrounded by many yet understood by few. There are days, God, when I stand in the middle of familiar faces and feel like a visitor in my own life, listening to stories and sharing moments while a quiet part of me wonders where I truly fit. And this sense of displacement can make even good places feel heavy because it carries the thought that I am replaceable, easily overlooked, quietly optional, and you know how deeply that thought can sink into the heart, shaping the way I love, the way I trust, the way I remain guarded even while longing to be close. And I admit how this loneliness sometimes makes me withdraw without meaning to, teaching me to expect distance before it arrives. And I place this pattern gently before you now, not to condemn myself, but to be understood. And in this tender pause, I invite you to step into the spaces where I feel unsure of my place, to remind my soul that belonging with you is not earned through visibility or usefulness, but given freely, steadily, and personally, even when I am standing among many and feeling quietly alone. When I pause long enough to listen inwardly, Lord, I notice how loneliness in crowds often carries a deeper fear. The fear that if I stop participating, if I stop smiling and responding and staying engaged, I might disappear entirely, as if my presence only exists while I am useful or agreeable. And you see how this fear teaches my heart to stay alert instead of at rest, to monitor reactions instead of receiving connection. And it quietly steals the joy from moments that were meant to be light. And I confess how often I leave gatherings feeling more tired than fulfilled, replaying faces and words, wondering if anyone truly felt me there. And I bring this weary vigilance to you without defense, because you understand how the soul longs to be chosen without auditioning. And in this gentle awareness, I invite you to quiet the part of me that believes I must earn my place, to let your steady presence teach my heart how to rest even among others, trusting that I do not vanish when I stop striving, because I am already firmly held in your attentive gaze. Even in moments of connection, God, I sometimes sense a thin veil between my heart and the world, as if I am close enough to touch but not close enough to be felt. And this subtle distance makes me question my own capacity for belonging, wondering if something in me is too quiet, too deep, or simply out of sync with the pace of others. And you know how these questions can echo louder in crowds, because comparison finds fertile ground where many lives overlap. And I bring you the weight of measuring myself against smiles and ease that may not be real, against confidence that may be practiced rather than true. And I admit how easily I assume everyone else is more connected than I am, more secure, more at home. And in this honest recognition, I gently invite you to anchor me in truth rather than perception, to help me release the habit of shrinking my worth based on what I see around me, and to teach my heart that even when I feel peripheral among many, I remain central in your awareness, fully present, deeply valued, and never misplaced. As the crowd moves and conversations shift, Father, I feel how easily my heart slips into listening mode, absorbing others while quietly shelving my own thoughts. And over time, this creates a loneliness that feels like self-erasure, as if I am present everywhere except within myself. And you see how often I choose harmony over honesty, how I smooth my edges to fit spaces that were never meant to require shrinking. And this gentle self-silencing accumulates like dust, soft but suffocating. And I bring this awareness to you now without shame, because you know how survival strategies can masquerade as peace. And in this calm moment, I tenderly invite you to help me hear my own voice again in your presence, to remind me that my inner life matters, that my perspective has weight, and that I do not need to fade into the background to be loved, because even when I feel lost within the many, you are patiently restoring me to myself, holding me steady, and teaching my soul how to remain whole in the midst of others. There is a quiet grief, Lord, that comes from realizing how often I have been surrounded yet untouched. How many moments passed where my body was present, but my heart felt like it was standing just outside the door, listening, waiting, unsure if it was welcome to step fully in. And this grief does not shout, it settles, teaching me to expect partial connection instead of fullness. And you understand how this shapes the way I hope, how I keep my expectations modest to avoid disappointment, how I tell myself that this distance is normal, manageable, acceptable, even when it aches. And I bring this resigned loneliness to you now, trusting that you do not want me merely coping through life. And in this soft confession, I invite you to awaken my heart again to the possibility of genuine connection, to remind me that longing itself is not a flaw, but a signal, and that even when crowds leave me feeling unseen, you are gently calling me back into a sense of belonging that begins in your faithful, unbroken presence. In the midst of shared moments and familiar routines, God, I sometimes sense how my heart has learned to live at a careful distance, close enough to participate yet far enough to avoid the pain of being overlooked. And this careful positioning slowly turns into loneliness, because it keeps me from fully arriving anywhere. And you see how often I choose safety over depth, how I hold back not because I lack desire, but because I have learned what it feels like to offer myself and feel unseen. And this memory lingers quietly, shaping my steps and my silences. And I bring this guarded tenderness to you now without trying to justify it, because you understand the cost of self-protection. And in this gentle stillness, I invite you to meet me right at the edge where I hesitate, to reassure my heart that with you, I am never too much and never invisible, and that even when I feel emotionally distant among many, your presence remains steady, inviting me to step closer without fear, without pretense, and without needing to disappear. There are moments, Father, when I realize that the loneliness I feel in crowds is not only about others, but about how far I sometimes drift from myself, how I stay alert to everyone else's needs, moods, and expectations while quietly neglecting my own. And this inner distance deepens the sense of isolation, because even surrounded, I feel internally scattered. And you see how this fragmentation happens little by little, through the habit of adapting, through the fear of being misunderstood, through the subtle belief that my inner world is too complex to be welcomed as it is. And I bring this scatteredness to you now, not asking for instant clarity, but for gentle gathering. And in this slow, intentional breath, I invite you to draw the pieces of my heart back together in your presence, to help me feel whole again, even among many voices, trusting that when I am anchored in you, I do not have to lose myself to remain connected, and that your quiet companionship can restore an inner unity that softens the loneliness I carry through crowded places. As the rhythm of life continues around me, Lord, I notice how easily I can feel carried along without being carried by anyone, moving with the flow of schedules, conversations, and shared spaces while my heart quietly wonders where it is safe to rest. And this creates a loneliness that feels mobile, following me even into places meant for comfort. And you understand how this constant motion can keep my soul from settling, how it teaches me to stay responsive instead of rooted, attentive instead of at peace. And I confess how rarely I allow myself to slow down enough to be truly present, even with others, even with myself. And I bring this restless presence to you now, trusting that you are not another voice competing for my attention, but the still point beneath it all. And in this calm surrender, I gently invite you to steady me from within, to help my heart learn how to remain grounded even when surrounded, so that I am not swept away by the crowd, but quietly anchored in a sense of being accompanied, known, and held in your unhurried awareness. And now, God, after walking through this quiet landscape of crowded loneliness, I feel how gently you have stayed with me through every thought, every ache, every unspoken admission. And I realize that even when I felt alone among many, I was never once alone with you, because your presence does not depend on attention, proximity, or understanding. It simply remains, steady and patient. And in this final stillness, my heart softens enough to openly invite you to settle fully within me. To let your closeness become the place where my loneliness loosens its grip, where being unseen by people no longer defines my worth or safety. And as I rest here, I receive your blessing over my inner life, a quiet covering of peace that reaches the parts of me crowds never touch. May your presence calm my anxious striving. May your love remind me that I belong before I am noticed. And may your spirit walk with me into every room, every gathering, every ordinary moment, until even in the midst of many voices, my heart recognizes the gentle truth that I am known, I am accompanied, and I am never, ever alone in you.
Breathe for a moment. God is here. He wants to hear you. If this touched your heart, subscribe for more.